everybody, and welcome back to Flock Talk. Today we are going to be starting a brand new series that is going to be going through all of the WikiHow articles related to bird care and kind of critiquing them and figuring out what works and what tips might not be quite so accurate. Today we are going over just the taming ones and going through all the little tips and tricks and tutorials that they have provided and examining all of their steps to see what is accurate and what might not be. So the first article here is called How to Train Your Bird to Step Up on Your Finger. Teaching a bird to step up is a basic yet important step a bird owner can take to dispel a bird's fear and build trust between a bird and an owner. Training a bird will also help establish your authority and prevent the bird from becoming territorial. So that's a little bit of an unnecessary phrase. Yes, teaching a bird to step up and engaging with them will build a lot of trust. You can build a really strong relationship that way, but your bird doesn't try to have authority over you. You don't need to establish authority over your bird. The whole way that flocks function is by cooperation. Your bird doesn't want to be better than you, so that's a bit of odd phrasing. While the steps are fairly easy, the success you have will depend on the bird's temperament and your own patience. So yes and no, the bird's temperament does come into play with how you want to approach the training, but the bird's temperament won't necessarily impact your ability to teach them. As long as you are a good trainer and know how to work around the different sort of problems that might arise, you can train any bird under any circumstances to be able to be tamed and interact with you. Okay, part 1, preparing for training. Train your bird 2 to 3 times a day for about 10 to 15 minutes. Absolutely. Birds are creatures of habit, have a short attention span, short consistent training sessions are the best approach. Absolutely. So 2 to 3 times is generally what's recommended. 2 is actually the most ideal for training sessions. 3, sometimes birds can get a little bit overworked and they don't want to work for that many sessions. That being said, if you're taming a bird, this is probably the first thing you're doing with them. So I would probably only start with about 5-minute training sessions instead of 10 to 15. 15 is generally the absolute max for a parrot's attention spans, so you really don't want to push them all the way to the end of that. Keeping them even shorter than 10 minutes can be more beneficial sometimes. Find a comfortable training area. Birds have short attention spans, so it's important to create a space with few distractions. Absolutely. Confident birds may not require a cage for training. If the bird is nervous or unaccustomed to your home, keeping a bird in the cage as you train may be necessary. So yes, however, if you are taming the bird, generally that means that they aren't comfortable being in the environment as a whole and you don't want to let them out. If the bird is going to fly out and panic and you can't get them back in because they don't want to engage with you, that's kind of a dangerous situation. So if you have a bird that doesn't like to engage with you or you don't have a way to get them back into the cage, it's generally safer either just to let them out in one small contained room and then leaving them there until they decide to go back in on their own, or just making sure that their enclosure is big enough where being confined to the cage for a while isn't going to be the biggest deal in the world. Create a safe and comfortable environment. Close all doors and windows, turn off ceiling fans and other devices that may harm the bird, keep other animals out of the room. Make sure that you are calm and gentle when training a bird. If you're frustrated, angry, or nervous, the bird will likely become agitated. Can we just talk about the oversized finch in this picture and the really inadequate cage? That's the only thing that's bad about this step. Prepare a special treat as a reward for your bird. As you calm the bird, accustom it to your hand, and teach it the step-up command, it is important to reward the bird's accomplishments. Absolutely. Rewards such as fruits and nuts should be reserved specifically for teaching a bird to step up and be a food that the bird does not usually eat. Absolutely, you want your training treats to be something extremely special that they can only get from you and from training. It just makes that motivation a little bit more clear and makes it so that your bird isn't gorging on treats all day long. Smaller, quickly edible rewards can be given to your bird to calm and encourage it as you teach it. I mean, giving them treats isn't really going to calm them in of its own. Birds can be quite fearful and still be very food motivated. But yes, you want the treats to be very small and very quick to eat. Saying soothing words and being generous in praise will calm and encourage your bird. Not necessarily. If your bird is extremely skittish, talking to them can make things worse, especially if you're already creating fear responses just by being in the room. You suddenly making noise can be more scary. If you're going to talk to them, I would talk to them outside of the room first, get them used to those noises, and then come closer. And then yes, calm, soothing, relaxing, quiet, kind of dulled out tones can make them a little bit calmer. You just don't want to be getting super hyped up and making lots of excessive noise. Familiarize the bird with your hand. Okay, we jumped over a lot of steps there. Slowly place your hand in the cage. No, but not too close until the bird is comfortable. Shy or nervous birds may require several sessions before they are comfortable with your hand. Be persistent. Always make sure to move slowly to avoid startling the bird. Stand just above the bird's eye level in order to establish dominance. Standing too tall can frighten the bird, and crouching too low may be submission on your part. What? the heck, people? Okay. A parrot's flock does not survive off dominance. They do not have an alpha structure. Applying those sorts of methods to training them will not be beneficial to you. It doesn't matter how tall you are to your bird. It doesn't matter how low you are to your bird. It doesn't matter if your bird's sitting on your head. Your bird doesn't care. Your bird isn't trying to be better than you by standing higher than you. That's not a true thing. Please don't do that. Generally, you want the bird to be as high as possible so they can feel comfortable and safe, and you want to be lower than them so they don't feel quite as threatened. Your bird isn't gonna suddenly think that they're the boss of you. That's not how parrots work. Slowly place your hand inside the cage. I wouldn't have started with this being step number one. Step number one should just be leaving your bird alone. You want them just to sit in the room, you sit on the other side of the room, and just give them space. Generally, if you're working with a bird that's quite skittish and afraid, you're not going to be able to get that close and put a hand in the cage without inducing fear responses. When it comes to taming, you basically want your presence not to be associated with fear at all. If every time you come near them, the first response they're having is fear, it can make things kind of worse. That being said, sometimes you need to have that little bit of like fear of just them stretching up and going, ooh, what the heck are you? And then you wait for the body language to calm down and then you back away. So they go, oh, if I calm down, you're gonna leave anyways. I don't need to be scared or fearful or aggressive to get you to go away. And they can start to get more comfortable that way and learning that in order to make the scary thing that is you go away, they have to be a little bit more calm. Before actually getting to them and putting your hand in the cage, that's a really big first step to take. Really, you should start just sitting in the room, sitting a little bit closer, sitting with your hand on the table, things like that. I wouldn't jump straight to jutting your hand in the cage and making the bird have to deal with it. Standing too tall can frighten the bird, and crouching too low may display submission on your part. If you are standing like this over your bird, who's trying to give me kisses, they can be scared of it if they aren't used to you, because it's very, very intimidating when you're a tiny prey animal. Having something loom over you and you being down and low makes you very, very vulnerable. It makes you very prone to being eaten by predators. They want to be up high, they want to be tall where they can feel safe. This isn't a dominance thing, this is just a safety thing. They want to be up high, they want to feel safe. That's all that's doing for them. And when it comes to taming and building that trust, you want them to be able to have that safety. Offer your hand to the bird, make sure to move your hand slowly and to hold your hand steady and with confidence. Birds will become nervous if their handler is nervous, and will become reluctant or scared to step onto your finger if your hand wobbles or if you drop the bird during these early sessions. So yeah, absolutely. Again, I wouldn't jump straight to offering your hand. I would actually leave your hand sitting kind of flat on the ground or flat on a perch, or holding on to the perch so they can walk along it. You don't want to move your hand towards them. You want them to come towards your hand. Again, this is giving them control over the situation. You want them to be comfortable and confident. You moving towards them is not an indication of their comfort. It's their tolerance of how much fear they're willing to put up with to make you go away, and that's not really the same thing. You really want the bird to be more in control of the situation, so I would just make sure to kind of switch that a little bit and make sure that they're coming to you. Yes, you do want to be confident in doing it, not necessarily because the bird can sense your lack of confidence, but just because if you're scared and uncertain with things, your hands are shaking, they're not going to want to engage with you if your hands are moving. You want to be steady, you want to be calm, you want the bird to know that they're going to step up onto you and you're not going to move. I wouldn't necessarily say that they have the capacity to sense your nervousness. It's more just that your hesitancy in the things makes you generally less trustful as a perching surface to stand on. Slowly and gently push your finger against the bird's lower chest right above his legs. So this is really outdated. Pushing into your birds to make them step up is a very old method that we still see a lot of the time today. It is not necessary and it can make taming take longer. What were you trying to land on? There's nothing there. Actively pushing into their chest is aversive. It is uncomfortable. The only reason why they're stepping up is to alleviate that discomfort. So generally you want to be able to hold your hand in front of them and they're going to reach for you and want to come up onto you. A more common method nowadays is just to hold the end of a perch and let the bird walk from one end to the other to slowly weasel their way up onto your hand, because stepping forwards like this can be a really big step for a lot of really nervous birds, whereas slowly shimmying across the perch is a lot easier. Whenever you're pushing into them, you're the one that's controlling the situation. The bird has no say or no choice. that can create a lot of discomfort, a lot of fear, and that's the opposite of what you want in this situation. Apply gentle pressure so that the bird is put slightly off balance. Again, this is aversive, this isn't pleasant, the bird is trying to avoid the situation. That's not how you're going to build a lot of successful trust. The bird should lift a leg when it feels off balance. When this occurs, place your finger under its foot and lift gently. The bird should step up onto your finger or hand. So yeah, the bird will step up, but again, the bird has been really uncomfortable, the bird has been really scared, the bird hasn't had a choice in what happens. The bird isn't really wanting to engage with the hand, it just wants the discomfort and the unbalance and the fear to go away, and that's the only way it's going to go away. So they have to do it. It's not going to build the most beneficial amounts of trust, and it's not going to build a really solid, stable relationship that you're going to want with your new bird. If the bird is nervous or bites, you may have to begin training with a wood dowel until it becomes more comfortable. So that step is there because that's a very common response. When you go and you push into a bird, especially larger birds, and they don't like it or they don't want to feel unstable and they feel like they can fight back and tell you to go away, they're going to. So when you push into them and they're uncomfortable with it, they'll bite the hand or they'll get really aggressive and they'll display to you. And so that's why they tell you to use a wooden dowel instead, because now you don't have any risk in the situation. You can go and cram the dowel into their chest, they can bite the dowel all they want, they're still going to be forced to step up, and the bird is eventually going to become extremely submissive to the situation because they're going to develop what's called learned helplessness, in which the bird is going through so much stress that it cannot escape from, that it is forced to basically give up. And it's not a very healthy response. It creates a lot of unnecessary stress, which can cause your bird to become very sick, as well as extremely aggressive and extremely complacent, which is not healthy. A bird may use its beak to steady itself or even bite your finger or hand. If this occurs, do not suddenly pull away or show fear, as the bird may be frightened and read this as a sign of submission. The bird isn't going to read you moving as a sign of submission. I don't know where this came from, but oh my god. Okay, so if you give your hand to your bird and see how Mia every time is putting her beak down, that's because Mia has sideways feet and is very slippery when she perches, so she likes to put her beak down every time to make sure that she is solid and stable. She's not putting pressure on me, she's not causing me pain, and your bird shouldn't either. That being said, if your bird is brand new to stepping up, they may grip your hand with some degree of pressure. It shouldn't hurt, but it is possible that it will. If there's a very main, big, huge difference between a bird biting you and a bird using its beak as support. Generally, it's a slow, calm pressure where they're just kind of grabbing on and making sure that your hand isn't going to move. If they go and put the beak down, apply that pressure, and you move your hand, that's confirming to them that your hand isn't stable, that it is scary, that it's not necessarily a steady perching surface, and they're not going to want to stand on it. They're going to be a bit more hesitant to do so. If your bird is biting your hand, which is generally really obvious because they will usually suddenly just lash out and grab it really quickly, and it will be piercing and it will hurt. Some birds will bite and latch on and dig in. Some will just strike you and back away. If they do that, stop. Yes, move your hand away from them. If they do get you, the best thing to do is to curl your hand into a fist and then move it towards them, and that will cause them to release you, and then you can move away. If the bird suddenly lunges at you and you go, oh my god, and you pull away, the bird isn't suddenly gonna think that it has dominance over you and that you are submitting and then become extremely aggressive. What can happen, and what Newt has had a history of doing, is they find it really funny and hilarious that you went ah and pulled your hand away. You screaming and moving and being loud can be extremely exciting, and as a result, when the bird bites you and you pull away, the bird thinks it's funny, so they're going to start pretending to bite you more often. That can happen. It is not extremely common, but it can happen. So if it starts getting more common where your bird is suddenly lunging at you and you do run into that problem, it's best just to slow down the situation and just present your hand from a very far distance. Give the bird a treat if they're being calm. Present it a little closer, give them a treat for being calm, instead of just continually trying to push through it and hoping they'll get over it. This way they're learning that presenting aggressive body language when they can't reach you and can't bite you doesn't get them any responses, it doesn't get them anything funny, and so they're gonna slowly stop doing that behavior because they're gonna start earning treats for being calm around you and not trying general funny tomfoolery and being pretend aggressive to get a response out of you. That again is not dominance, it is just a bird having fun and playing with your emotions. So again, if the bird does actually come to try and bite you, please move yourself into safety. Don't just stand there and take the bite because the internet told you the bird is going to dominate you if you don't. Safety is first priority. If the bird is lunging to bite you, you've got bigger problems. being bit is a big problem, and then you can work from there to figure out why they decided to be aggressive in the first place and solve that problem at its core. Encourage the bird to step up. Use the bird's name when you say step up and be generous with praise. Many birds, particularly if they are young, will step onto the finger with a little encouragement, as a finger resembles a perch. When your bird steps up, praise it and give it a special treat you prepared before beginning. Even if the bird only raises 1 foot to your hand, you should praise and reward it. With repetition and encouragement, the bird will learn to associate the command with step up and perching in your hand and arm. I mean, nothing inherently wrong with that. Again, I would go from the extension of the perch, where the bird can shimmy across and onto your hand and say step up, and then work to forwards, just because it is a very big leap for very scared birds. But there's nothing inherently wrong with that step. Repeat the training with the other hand. Following the same steps, accustom the bird to your weaker hand. Animals of habit, birds may refuse to perch on your opposite hand unless you take the time to train them during this initial period. As your bird becomes comfortable, you can begin taking it out of the cage before repeating the step-up training. So yeah, again, nothing inherently wrong with that. The only thing is that the bird won't know to step up, on the other hand, not because it's a creature of habit, but because many animals struggle to generalize behavior. And all that means is that just because they can do something in one situation doesn't mean they understand to do it in a different one. So you'll have to teach step up with one hand, you'll have to teach it with the other, you'll have to teach it in different rooms, so they can generalize the behavior to a bunch of different environments and situations and people. If your bird is shy or nervous and refuses to step up onto your hand or finger, use a wooden dowel instead. Once the bird steps up on the dowel, move on to the laddering technique. Place your finger beside and slightly higher than the perch bird and encourage it to move to the new perch. Accompany each step with a step-up command and be generous with praise. When the bird follows your command, have the bird continue moving from dowel to finger and finger to dowel until the training session is over. That is a little odd. I wouldn't really do this at all. Very strange. Okay, they have a picture of target training, but then have explained a totally different process. I wouldn't find this to be necessary. If you have a bird that is refusing to step up onto your finger or hand, there's a reason why. Using a wooden stick isn't gonna solve that problem, because they're probably scared of your hand. So teaching them to step up onto a dowel and then tricking them with your finger and then having them panic when they realize that they're there and lunge and bite your hand because they're suddenly on it and they weren't expecting to be, that can cause a lot more problems than just resolving the root of the fact that they're scared of your hand and slowly kind of teaching them to gain that comfort. This is kind of just a weird step. I could see it having some uses in really strange one-off cases, but this wouldn't be something I would jump to right off the bat. It's just kind of weird. Be persistent but patient. Birds have unique temperaments and may be shy or nervous, and thus it is important to exercise patience as you train your bird every day. Make a routine of the training sessions. Your bird will learn to anticipate your training sessions together. Reward even small amounts of progress and praise with treats. Encouragement is the best way to make your bird comfortable and teach it to follow your commands. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. You want to do training every single day. You want to make sure you're consistent with it. You want to make sure that it is a very positive experience. There's just so much weird going on here. At the beginning, they're telling you to be dominant and to make sure that you're bigger than your bird and use a lot of force. And then at the end, they're telling you that keeping things positive and encouraging is the only way to make progress. So they've got a lot of mixed signals going on here. That is going to do it for today. So let me know what you guys think, if you would like this to be a common series or not. If you want to see more episodes of this, we can go over all sorts of different things. There's all sorts of different, very random, weird tutorials that WikiHow has made with regards to pet birds and things that I think there could be a lot to learn from. So let me know what you think, and I will do more if you want them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye. If this occurs, do not suddenly pull away or show fear. The bird may... Ooh, that's my face.